Firefighter saves girl. 17 years later, a letter makes him cry. In a world where acts of bravery often go unnoticed, one firefighter's selfless deed would leave a lasting memory on the life of a young child. But as time went by, the memory of the heroic act began to fade, and questions remained unanswered. Then, in an unexpected twist of fate, a mysterious phone call reignited the past and brought two lives crashing back together. What unfolds is a heartwarming tale of resilience, gratitude, and an unbreakable bond forged in the most harrowing of circumstances. Keep watching to discover a remarkable journey that'll captivate your heart, stir your emotions, and remind you that sometimes the most extraordinary stories are the ones that come full circle. A retired firefighter named Mike Hughes has never been able to forget his years of service. With as much experience as he has had throughout his life, hundreds of things have happened while he was on duty. But undoubtedly, there was one event in particular that's remained in his memory since then until today. Not only has he not forgotten it, but he received a call that would leave him stunned and that he never expected to receive. But the truth is that life has many twists. One ordinary day, Mike and his coworkers were waiting at the fire station to be called for a fire alert. Suddenly, the alarms went off and everyone began to run from one place to another, activating the fire protocol. The call was because a family home was on fire. They had to act quickly as possible since lives could be at stake. There wasn't a minute to lose, and soon they arrived at the scene of the fire. The house was engulfed in flames. There was no time to lose. The flames were spreading throughout the house at a rapid pace since the residence was made entirely of wood. There wasn't a single window or door to escape from that wasn't covered by flames. Luckily, it seemed that everyone had already made it outside before the fire spread. However, when they managed to put out the fire and were able to enter, they were met with an enormous surprise. After extinguishing the fire, they had to quickly check if anyone was still alive in the house and if the structure was damaged. Mike was the first to enter and went through all the empty rooms of the house. But just as he was about to leave, he saw something moving under some blankets. He approached, and upon seeing what was beneath them, almost had a heart attack. He called his teammates to activate the rescue protocol, and when everyone saw what was happening, no one could believe it. None of the colleagues could believe what was happening. The house had started to burn, and the entire family had run out, leaving a 9-month-old baby in a room wrapped in blankets. The survival instinct is greater than the love of a child, or at least that was the case here. That's what the firefighters thought when they saw the baby left at the mercy of fate. Fortunately, Mike arrived in time, and they were able to get the child out alive. Everyone was overwhelmed by the emotion of the moment. The baby was quickly handed over to the medical services waiting outside with an ambulance, and he never knew anything about the child again. Whether the baby survived smoke inhalation or whatever happened to him afterward was unknown. However, Mike could never forget that day. It left a deep mark on him, and the entire city reminded him of it constantly since the story appeared in newspapers and everyone found out. The whole city treated him like a true hero. Shortly after that incident, Mike thought he couldn't take it anymore. It left him deeply traumatized, and he was already getting older for continuing as a firefighter. Thus, he reached retirement age and didn't think twice. He applied for his retirement immediately. He even became obsessed with the baby and what might have happened to him. His friends began to worry a lot about him, thinking he was going crazy. Mike, on the other hand, started looking for information about it. Mike's coworkers began to worry about him as he seemed to be very obsessed with finding the baby he had saved years ago. He could never forget what happened and felt a strong need to find him and know about his life. Everyone wanted to help him and tried to search for any information, but there wasn't much they could find. As time had passed and the family had moved away. It seemed like a lost cause, but Mike couldn't give up. He felt a deep connection with the child he had saved, and the mystery of the child's fate haunted him. His friends and family tried to support him and encouraged him to continue his search. Years went by, and Mike had all but given up hope of ever finding the child. However, one day he received a phone call that would change everything. The person on the other end introduced himself as Jack and told Mike that he'd been searching for him for years. Jack said he was the child that Mike had saved from the fire all those years ago. Mike couldn't believe what he was hearing and was filled with emotion. After the initial shock, Mike and Jack agreed to meet in person to talk about their lives and reconnect after all these years. Jack explained that his family had moved away shortly after the fire and had started a new life in another city. He grew up hearing about the heroic firefighter who had saved his life, and he had always felt a deep gratitude for Mike. Jack decided to look for Mike when he became an adult, and after a long search, he was finally able to track him down. As they spoke, Jack told Mike how his life had turned out since that fateful day. He'd gone to college and become a successful entrepreneur, and he'd also started a family of his own. He was grateful for the second chance that Mike had given him, and he wanted to express his deepest appreciation. Jack thanked Mike for his bravery and selflessness, and they both realized how their lives were forever intertwined by that one act of heroism. Over time, Mike and Jack developed a strong bond, and they became close friends. Mike was thrilled to see the impact of his actions on Jack's life and to know that he had made a difference. For Mike, it brought closure and healing to a part of his life that had always been filled with questions and uncertainty. For Jack, it was a chance to connect with the man who had saved him and to express his gratitude for the gift of life. Together, they continued to build their friendship, forged in the fire that had brought them together all those years ago.